recording. So we were just talking about restricted countries, and yes. Cuba, one of them, and you had some experience in this last year, your first film festival. Tell us about that.
Well, it was right after our current president's inauguration, and what I had realized was a lot of the films we were showing were from the countries that he had put a travel ban on. And I thought, what was it like being a child today and hearing all these things from the news? Because, it's a 24-hour news cycle. Right. They're hearing things all the time. And like you were saying, it's so important for children to form their own opinions about the world. So I was so proud and so excited to be showing films from these countries. Right. To have an audience that supported the international arts. Because, again, it's important for children to see what life is like for kids in these countries and not be so afraid of the other, right?
Right.
Yeah, not instill that sort of baseless fear in children.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That's been very, very important.
So essential. Felix, from Finding Felix, he says, you see these films and you see the different kind of lives they have, but they're the same as ours. Yeah. They want what we want. Yeah. And we have to recognize and trust that our kids understand that. They know that. They know that. And they pick it up. And so we have to trust that they have the capacity to, children have capacity for empathy from infancy.
Yeah, they really do.
They really do.
They really, really do.
Yeah. And so they can form their own opinions earlier on. And so if they're hearing something negative in the news or from someone else, they'd be able to say, I don't think that's right.
I don't think you're looking at the right context.
That's right. Tell me about one of those films from Syria. What was it about?
There was a film from Syria about what it was like to be a refugee. And I know that also in Seattle they had a whole entire program about the refugee crisis.
Good.
And I think again, children learning the perspective of what it would be like to leave your home, be forced out of your home, the things you miss.
Yeah.
That kind of transient feeling, hopelessness, and learning that and feeling that as a kid, it could carry throughout your entire life of understanding people in different situations better.
Sure.
And there's something about learning things as a child that is so different than learning it as an adult. And I don't know how you feel about this, but there's something so special about watching these films in the dark, in the quiet. So many people come up to me and say, this was my child's first experience in a theater. And I was wondering what you thought about that quality.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. I'm looking at the impact of international film on childhood autobiographical memory, right? And if that film, that first film, which is so easily remembered, and this is my question to 70 plus people in Berlin, what's your earliest memory of an international film? Many would say, well, maybe it was this television program. But in Berlin, where there is this long legacy of the Berlin Film Festival and a now 40-year-old children's film festival, there are a lot of people who have international films as their first memory. And what happens is it's so distinctive. An international film is distinctive from the other things that children see in media, on television, in books. It's a different style of storytelling. The aesthetic is different.
Pacing is different.
The language, of course, is different. It's such a distinctive experience, and the lights are down. And it's completely quiet.
You don't worry about anyone watching you and your reaction to things.
Yeah, and you're having this one-to-one experience with the child leading the action.
It's transcendent.
In the film, it is. It's and maybe it's womb-like, and so this makes a powerful memory, It takes up a lot of sensory space, and this is why it makes such an impactful memory. And this is why we can remember it 60 years later.
Isn't that great?
Like one of my subjects.
Wow.
Oh, it was amazing. Bruni, 74 years old, she remembered her film from 4 years old, and it was post-war Germany. So this is why it made such an impact. Her life was really, really hard. And this moment in the cinema gave her such joy. And so that joy from 4 years old came catapulting 60 years forward when she gave her interview.
Yeah, this is why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
This is why we go through all the obstacles.
Tell me about another great acceptance. We're talking about acceptance and rejection.
Well, you know, I had a mother come up to me at this past film festival with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Thank you so much for doing this. My son, he's not interested in sports, he doesn't want to play video games, he wants to be the next Tim Burton. He wants nothing more than to make his own world, draw these own characters, he sees the world in a different way." And he said he came to this festival and he felt like the coolest guy in the room. And I thought, that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and he was so inspired. And I think it is, again, being maybe in your own community feeling like the other and feeling a little bit like an outcast opens up a different sort of artistic expression. And I loved creating that experience where he felt very accepted and he understood the language. He was already speaking the language.
All right.
So, which I loved, and that was a huge gift.
Yeah.
I really like that. And then we had a program that was all starring young women and girls. Which was so important again after the past election.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic to see these young girls walk in with their moms, and to see these young boys walk in, to see these women and girls in starring roles. Yeah. And they weren't being saved by anybody. No dragons were being slayed. But they were dynamic, funny, flawed. And that was important.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I did a program like that called Little Girls Are Made of Spice.
Yeah,
not sugar and spice, but spice. Yeah. And this was a great one. We showed film called Mother of the River about a girl who was a slave. So it was a period piece. And I remember talking with my mother, who was a school counselor, about this, because there was a scene where she was whipped. And the film festival director's wife read me the riot act and said, "Don't you show children that." Right. And I said, "Okay." We heard her cry. We heard the crack of the whip. We didn't see graphic depiction. And my mother, the school counselor, said, "You didn't see graphic depiction." I wish I could make it. We didn't see graphic depiction. Okay, so that's maybe a segue to talking about violence. Yeah. Yeah. Good. This is really great.
Oh, good.